Welcome to King County Connects, where we connect you with some of the important issues in the county and our region. I'm Enrique Cerna. The job market is recovering, but finding a job if you're a military veteran is a lot tougher. King County is working to help vets transition from the military to the civilian workforce. A new program called Vets-4-Hire is designed to do just that. And today we're talking with Councilmember Reagan Dunn and Steve Stamper, who is an Iraq war vet and now works full-time for the county. Well, gentlemen, good to have you here. Appreciate it. And Steve, thank you for your service
My pleasure. Nice to be here.
Gave to this country over those years. Hiring vets, getting them back into society and our economy, the challenge is it's surprisingly hard.
It's an incredibly tough challenge because the skill sets that our vets learn overseas, and they're great skill sets, don't always mean they'll get a job the minute they come back. In fact, if we look across the state of Washington, unemployment in 2014 was 6.3% for the general population. For vets, it was almost double, 11.4%. And so Vets-4-Hire is designed to help reintegrate veterans into our economy and help get them jobs.
Now, King County actually really has been in the forefront of trying to help veterans with the King County Veterans Program and other efforts and the passage of a levy here. Why is the commitment so strong?
One of the reasons why is we have 78,000 veterans right here in King County. And in fact, of the 12,000 employees that work for King County government, 1,000 of them are vets. And I think you're reflecting the values that we care about the service they are providing in our military. We want to make sure that their families and they have the income they need to succeed in our new economy.
Is it unique that a county takes on this effort to try to reach out to help its veteran population?
Well, it's not unique, but one of the handful of 3 or 4 leading counties that are really trying to put this fellowship program together to bring folks in a temporary or part-time basis and then move them into full-time capacity. So Steve is an example of a success story on that.
Well, Steve, let's talk about your background. You're from Ohio?
That's right, Cincinnati.
All right. So tell us about how did you end up going into the military and the experiences that you had there?
I had always been interested in joining the Army. I used to read books when I was a kid about weapons and soldiers and everything. So when the time was right, I decided to join. I served for the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And then I went over to Germany and served with the 1st Armored Division for 3 years there. While I was there, I deployed to Iraq for 10 months.
Okay. Were you prompted to join the military at all after 9/11?
I was. I wasn't sure how to react at first, and I thought, over time, I thought this is something that I want to do and support. So I joined in 2004, and I spent just under 6 years active duty.
Serving overseas, you were in Iraq and Afghanistan. How many deployments did you have?
I actually didn't go to Afghanistan. Went to Iraq for 10 months, and I was in southern Baghdad province. Now, I was trained as an artillery officer, but we rarely did artillery at that time in the war, so we were all operating as a motorized rifle platoon.
When you came back and that transition from being in the military to then getting back into civilian life, was it hard?
It was tough. I was lucky. When I got out, I had a family that supported me. I had a girlfriend, now my wife, who was in the Army for 6 years as a nurse, and so she knew that world and she knew the challenges. And I had a little bit of time because I had that support network to decide what I was going to do, where I was going to do it. Everyone doesn't have that, and a lot of guys they serve with pride, and they have an identity in the Army, whether it's platoon sergeant, squad leader, platoon leader, or just the guy on the 50 caliber. But when they get out, they lose that identity, and so they really struggle to find a new one. And that's why these services and these programs that help the vets are so important.
In the military, I guess you have a focus there. You have a routine, you have orders, all of those types of things. And it seems like that moving from that into the civilian world could be a difficult thing to get used to again.
No, you're absolutely right. When I joined at 24 years old, I had been to college, so I'd grown up a little bit. A lot of soldiers in the Army, they start at 18, sometimes 17. So they grow up in the Army. That's all they know. They know that world. They know what they need to do, what they need to wear. And so when they get out, that's right. That's right. So by the time they get out, it's a really big transition, and it takes time to learn.
This Vets-for-Hire program, how is it then taking into mind what these veterans have to deal with when they come back?
You know, as we look across and see that 9,000 veterans are below the poverty line, 5,000 veterans are unemployed, and yet we know they learned great skill sets overseas. And for example, they might be a great welder in the military. They come over and they don't have the state certifications they need. So what we wanted to do as a county that employs so many in a full service county government, we want to bring them in to the county in a variety of capacities in this fellowship, train them, help them get their certifications, and then place them either in the county or in other jobs across the county, in fact the country, where they can use those skill sets effectively to feed their families.
So you actually are involved in this, right, Steve?
That's right.
Okay, so tell me what you do and how you're helping other vets as well.
So when I first got out, went and got a master's degree at Seattle U, and then I started as a HERO intern back in 2012. And so part of that job description was helping to set the program up, to figure out some of the gaps that we needed to fill to make it a better program. So I spent the first 6 months there supporting that program. And then I was extended and then hired full-time over at the Office of Performance Strategy and Budget. And so what I've noticed is this program continues to improve. The folks that are managing it are really looking at the program and figuring out how can we better support the vets, and that very important time when they first separate from the military.
We call it the HERO program. I know that the federal government also has a thing called the HERO Corps. So obviously government is concerned about how vets are getting opportunities to go back into society and to make these work. For the county, I mean, there's so many different issues for veterans, and not just employment, but the fact that a large number are also homeless as well. The challenge then to recruit veterans or to find them so that they're going to be a part of this or find their way into this, how tough is that?
We are getting a fair amount of applications for this new Vets-for-Hire program. It was called the HERO program. We transitioned it in, but we can always use more. And it has been somewhat challenging. We're now beginning to do outreach at the VFW halls across the county, working with the Department of Veterans Administration there at the federal government. But I think it's word of mouth and shows like this, Enrique, where we can promote a wonderful program that folks can use to develop their profession better.
So it started as the HERO program, and now we've transitioned to Vets-for-Hire, really.
Yeah, it was started as HERO, and it was an internship program. We thought, a lot of folks thought the intern sounded a little low, so it's now called a fellowship program, and Vets-for-Hire, and the hire part, Heroes in Reintegration Experience is what that stands for.
So Steve, take me through the process. Let's imagine that I'm a vet and I'm out there looking for some type of help, and I see online maybe that this program is available. What do I do?
Well, if you apply to the program, the program will work with you to find, if they think you're a good candidate, they'll work with you to find a good fit for you in the county. When I started, I wasn't sure what I really wanted to do. I wasn't sure what local government really was doing. So it was a great opportunity to get your foot in the door, learn about local government, and try to find a place that you see yourself in the future.
What was it? Did you understand how government worked here, or how local government worked, how county government worked?
I knew as much as I learned in college, but never had any experience with it. So you know, it's a unique organization, local county government. So you almost have to get in to see what folks are doing, and there's a lot going on in county government. So there should be a good fit for almost everyone.
Was it a challenge for you?
It was. The work environment's very different from my experience in the Army. So there's a learning curve there.
So talk about that. What's much different?
Well, the communication styles are very different, of course. Not a lot of thank yous and well dones in the Army. But so you learn how to communicate in an office that has a very big variety of individuals. And the military way is you conform to to a type of person that they need to be successful. And it's similar in civilian jobs, but it's just a different type of person. So you really have to learn how to work with everybody.
So is it fair to say it's more harsh? It's just, do your job?
In the military, yes.
Yeah.
It really is. So, and there's not a ton of recognition, and that's fine. Everyone understands that, and that's fine. But it really is. It's a different way of working through the day with teams and with people. So you have to know that and understand that to be successful. And so that this program for me provided that.
So is it changing, I guess, your personality to some degree too, because you're working with a wide range of people. I mean, the military has a certain amount of that, but if you're talking about government, you're working with people from various backgrounds.
Yeah, no, I think that it is. It's slowing down a step, and very high speed in the military. It's go go go. So it's slowing down a step, and it's learning how to. It's taking those components that made you successful in the military, which is essentially project management, which is high work rate, which is loyalty, and using those in a different way to be successful with a different team.
How did you then end up going from being that guy who comes into the program to then finding a position with it?
I worked hard. I made sure that I worked hard and people noticed. I networked as much as I could. Tried to learn about what was going on in the county in different departments to see what I might be interested in doing long term. And I just kept my head down and let the work do the speaking.
What do you want veterans to understand about this program and how it can help them and why it's important?
Well, for any veteran who's just come out of the military or is thinking about coming out of the military, we are also a government, just like you are in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. We understand a bit about your experience, and we're in a really unique position to help transition your professional career back into either the public sector or the private sector stateside. And we've got a lot of services and abilities and training opportunities to do it, more than most. And so in some ways, it's a soft place to land coming back into civilian service. And you will find that it is a great transition point. 55% of the people who have gone through this program, the vets, have found jobs in King County. Many others have gone out across the county into private sector jobs. And so we're very, very proud of that. And we really hope that folks apply. The website is kingcounty.gov/Vets-4-Hire. If they're interested in applying, and we're actually hiring right now.
We're going to make sure we're going to put that up on our website as well, so that people will have that information. When going through the process, how long are people involved in the fellowship? And is there training for that when you get in?
The fellowship now is 6 months long, your manager will work with you once you start to figure out what kind of training you're interested in, what kind you might need for what you're interested in doing long term. And so the managers really do a good job of supporting you and setting you up for success.
And after the 6 months now, with the program beginning to change, there's also an additional 2,080 hours of work that can be added onto that based on the manager's call and experience.
So they could keep people on working in that respect, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, and also depending on sort of your rank and experience level, there are 3 different classifications coming in. So senior officers could come in and their jobs set up at their skill level as well.
What is it that you want to do?
That's a tough one. So I've really enjoyed my current position at the Office of Performance Strategy and Budget. We do performance measurement, we do some strategic planning, we do line of business planning. So we work in almost a consulting format with the different agencies, and we get down with the teams on the front line and we help them solve problems, and I really like that. It's very similar to what I was doing in the Army, solving problems and working in a team environment. So I enjoy my current position, and I think I'm gonna stick around for a bit.
And the others that you have worked with that are coming into the program, have you talked to them about just that adjustment period and how they have adjusted, or do they come to you and say, do you have any advice as far as how I can deal in this kind of job environment, or what are the areas I might want to look at?
When I was in the HERO program, we were in a cohort model, and so we regularly met with the cohort to discuss those things and to see how we could help each other. Now, I believe there's a mentorship set up with each hire so that they have kind of a senior veteran King County employee to kind of answer those questions. You know, what does this mean? What is this? What should I be concerned with at this time? Things like that. So the support's there.
When you were in the cohort part of it, obviously it's a bit different now. What was that like as far as when people would get together to talk about, their experiences? Did they want to find out, what challenge are you having, or what challenge are you having? Not
at first. You learn in the military not to whine, not to talk about problems, just to get the job done. So I think when the cohort first got together, there was not a lot of that kind of support and questions, but over time, we got to know each other, and it did become that kind of forum to say, hey, are you having issues here? Are you having issues there? But I do, I think that's part of the transition, is that it's a different mentality. You're no longer in the military. You don't have to worry about those things. There's a lot of people there that, we went overseas and we did the nation's bidding, and now I see, and it hasn't always been this way, but I see now that, the government at different levels are really trying to say, okay, thank you, and we want to support you in a way to set you up for success for the rest of your life.
How's this changed you, and from the guy that was in Iraq to the guy that now is working in the King County Courthouse?
I think I'm a little more patient with things. I think, I think that I've slowed down a little bit, and I'm doing really interesting stuff, and I have an opportunity in my office to help underprivileged King County citizens, to help agencies do their work better, and it's a different mission, but it's a mission, and I think that's important to have. I have that in my current work, so I have objectives to move towards.
Is the military doing enough to, prepare you for when you leave?
I got out in 2009. They were not doing enough then. I was not happy with the programs in the military at the very tail end, or the connection to services outside of the military. I think it's really changed in those 6 years. They've connected the services to the pipeline that feeds vets as they separate. They're creating a network throughout the county, throughout the Puget Sound area, so that maybe King County isn't a good fit for a Vet-4-Hire after the 6 months, but we have a network now that we can connect that vet to other private sector organizations, to other jurisdictions, to see if there's a good fit there. So absolute huge improvement since I've separated.
So the county is doing this and has had an effort in place to try to help vets transition for a number of years, and then with the levy that was passed, and then also passed again. What about the private sector in trying to get them involved in this?
We're seeing some interesting programs, like a program I heard of in Idaho called Just Hire One Vet. If every business just hired one vet, that they could make a meaningful difference. But as we see frequently, when government leads on some issue, whether it's emissions standards or some kind of a regulatory framework for cleaning up the environment, we see the private sector follow suit. And so this is an example program. Hey, this is what we can do in our particular local government, which is equivalent to a large public corporation of 12,000 employees. Folks, we hope others out in the community will do this as well. That's going to bring that unemployment number, which is almost double, much closer to the general population, and give the tools folks need to transition over.
So is there any recruiting going on the county's part to try to get private sector to take a look at this and get involved?
I think that's the next step in this program. And in fact, we are hiring 2 classes right now for the For-Hire fellowship program. We'd like to get some people dedicated on that exact mission. Actual vets themselves in working on making sure that the private sector is beginning to pick up. Because I think We all have a responsibility. We know how tough the transition is. We know the issues with PTSD, for example. We all have an obligation, political leadership and private sector leadership, to try and make a difference in making that transition easier.
Did you have any issues, I guess, from what you might have experienced in Iraq, and then when you come back home to try to get settled back in?
I was lucky. My experience was better than a lot of guys that they deployed multiple times, different scenarios, high level of danger, and yet that's going to be tough for anyone. So there's going to be issues down the road at some point. It may not be right when they separate. It may not be within a year of separation, but the data shows that eventually that kind of stuff catches up with you. Personally, I haven't had any issues. I always considered myself a guy in the Army, not an Army guy. So I don't know if that helped me transition back into civilian life, but I've been lucky. I really have.
How did you come from Ohio to then get over here after kind of that roundabout from the military?
Well, my wife and I were in Germany together. We were both separating, and we were throwing around some ideas about where we could go. She's from Portland, Oregon. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Well?
That's right. She was an Army nurse.
Oh, okay.
And we made a wish list, both of us, top 5 cities. We wanted to move to a major metropolitan area because we had been in kind of these small towns in the Army all over the place. So Seattle was high on both lists, so we went with it.
So you both went from being Bengals to Seahawks?
Well, I'm still a Bengals fan.
Okay. Oh, still okay.
Well, all right. they're doing well now. It's not always. They were terrible 10 years ago. They're doing good now.
Yeah. Well, okay. Then we'll see what happens here in the future as the teams kind of have to deal with one another again. Now, your wife, how has she had adjusted to all of these things?
She was an Army nurse, and she worked in neonatal intensive care. She worked in labor and delivery in the Army. She was very lucky. She got the first day we came to Seattle, we were looking at apartments. She had a job interview for a job that she didn't want. But I said, go do the interview, get some experience, just do it. So she went. Before the interview started, they said, well, we also have this other position that we're hiring for. Is exactly what she wanted. She got the job that day, and she's been there for 6 years and loves it.
Nice.
It's a great story.
Let's talk just about veterans. As we speak, we're just about ready to celebrate or acknowledge again the work of veterans and what they've meant to this country through Veterans Day. What do you want people to understand about what veterans mean to this community, what they can bring to the table as far as not only in county government, but I guess elsewhere as well?
Well, there's a lot of misperceptions about vets, especially post 9/11 vets. You have to remember, a veteran typically volunteers. There's some guys that say it's either jail or the Army, but the overwhelming majority volunteer to serve the nation, and they do it well. It's not an easy job. There's a lot of danger with almost every position in the Army, Marines, Navy, and you have to remember that these are people that are loyal to their country, loyal to their teammates. They're very high functioning. They're almost natural project managers because there's so much at stake, and so that should be considered when you're looking at to hire veterans versus others. They've proven through their service, if they've been honorably discharged, they've proven that they've already met a threshold. I believe. So, some may have problems struggling with PTSD, and that's everyone's responsibility to make sure that they get the support they need. But if I'm in a management position, I'm hiring, I'm gonna look for vets because I know what they can do.
I think that we've been very fortunate in this county that in many ways we've been proactive in trying to really reach out to our veterans and have that grow. And the citizens here obviously have backed that up and supported it through levies.
Yes, absolutely. The Veterans and Human Services levy, which we passed overwhelmingly now 4 or 5 years ago. It'll be up for reauthorization now in a couple years, and certainly be supporting that. It's a good bang for the citizens' buck, and we are ahead of the curve here and proactive, but there's still so much more to do. We've come a long way since the days of Vietnam in terms of what we want to do for our men and women serving in armed forces, and we'll continue to make progress in that area.
So this is an expansion really from what was started with the HERO effort, and now with this. What else would you like to see in place?
We need to promote this program as much as possible. We need to get the private sector thinking a lot more along the lines than we are. Other local governments, cities, towns, special purpose districts should be considering vets. We need to build in an increased capacity for PTSD, and we're doing some of that under the mental illness and drug dependency levy as well. But a lot of that work and forward thinking can be done by the individuals we hire in this Vets-4-Hire program, and so I'm excited about the future.
So you're encouraging vets to take a look at this and to see that there might be an opportunity for them to kind of jumpstart things once they get out of the military here. So it could be you're a great example of that. So that's really great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it very much for taking the time to talk about the Vets-for-Hire program. And also thank you, Steve, for your commitment to the program, but also to your service to this country. Really appreciate it. And Councilman, thank you very much for making sure that you're there. And I know you and other council members are very supportive of the veterans of what they have done for our country. Well, thanks for joining us today. Please visit us online at kingcounty.gov. KCTV, and we're going to see you next time for the next edition of King County Connects. I'm Enrique Cerna.